Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Stephen Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric. Lapolis Electric is a full-service electrical construction company covering areas such as residential service, emergency service, energy efficiency, commercial services, and engineered services / electrical preventative maintenance. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with Michael Murphy, who is the head of business development for Murphy Brothers Contracting. Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Quite a pleasure, Steve. I've heard a lot about this podcast throughout Westchester County. Finally, I get to be a guest.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you here. I know, you and I have our own personal relationship dating back a few years, and I know you're very close with Carmine Lapolis as well. So we're very happy to have you on the podcast and also have relationships with you in the industry.
Well, I have tremendous respect for the Lapolis family. Like Murphy Brothers is a family-owned business, although I'm not one of the brothers, as I've said to people before, right? I just happen to have the last name Murphy. As they say, my last name is Murphy, not Murphy Brothers.
That's it.
But anyways, like the Lapolis family, so it's a great Westchester organization. You guys have been in business for how long?
40 years, actually, as of May.
45 years this year for Murphy Brothers, so we have a lot to celebrate. 85 years of being in this county. It's amazing if you can be in business for 5 years.
It is.
Let alone 40 years or 45 years.
Yeah, and especially if you look at the trajectory of events that have conspired, so to speak, over the course of the last 40 years, and a lot of adversity has been overcome for both the Lapolis family and the Murphy brothers to get to where they are today in terms of their longevity in business. It is truly impressive between economic declines and pandemics and all the other crazy conditions of the world to remain as a staple in the community and for us in the tri-state area. It's truly impressive.
Yeah, that pandemic in and of itself was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a crazy time, and I know during the pandemic, you and I had, that's where I think our relationship really started, was during the pandemic, and it's cool to connect with people, in times of need, and kind of be there for each other.
Well, Murphy Brothers is delighted to be working with Lapolis Electric on our projects. So if you don't mind, I'd like to speak a little bit about Murphy Brothers, otherwise I'll get fired.
Yeah,
right?
Go for it. We definitely want you to be able to keep that embroidery on your shirt that you have there.
We'll get the work out of the way here, first of all. So for 45 years, it was started by Sean and Chris Murphy, the brothers, and they still today they're involved in the business. Sean on the back end of the business, Chris on the front end of the business, and they like to throw their buckets into their hat into three different buckets. One of them being a high-end residential work. So it's like you see this, like either it's a whole house renovation or it's new construction throughout the area. And then the other bucket would be the private club world, or the yacht club, shore club, beach club type place. I think we worked with you on Quaker Ridge Golf Club.
Yes, Quaker Ridge
It was
Golf
an
Club.
amazing project. Have you ever seen the pictures of that?
That
I should send you one of them.
That project and that club is immaculate.
Amazing, right? And just the golf simulator rooms themselves in the caddy shop.
Cool.
Was fantastic. Anyways, that and then and the high end on the residential side, I recall recently you guys were on the job we did up in LaGrangeville. There was the restoration of a 1760s farmhouse on a 160-acre farm in LaGrangeville, New York. So always good to see a Lapolis truck. And that third bucket is like everything else, whether it's an equestrian estate or it's self-storage, office build-outs and the like that. And speaking of self-storage, we got in the self-storage business about, almost 10 years ago when we opened up a 40,000 square foot facility on our property in Mamaroneck. And so after 2 years of being in the business, we were filled and turning people away. Imagine that, people coming to us and saying, I'd like to rent a unit. We say we don't have any units to rent.
Yeah.
So we have to wait for people to move out so we can move them back in there. So we decided we need to do an addition on that building. And just this month, and we're in the month of August of 2024, because people might be listening to this 10 years from now, whatever.
Hopefully they are.
Yeah, right. So we knocked down all the buildings on our property, and we're going to build a 43,000 square foot addition,
Wow,
which will house not only more self-storage and what we call Mamaroneck Self-Storage, but it'll also be the headquarters for Murphy Brothers Contracting as we
Wow.
move into the next 45 years of
Yeah.
being in business in the Westchester, Fairfield, Lower Hudson Valley area, serving people with construction needs.
The legacy company. I love to hear that. It's a
Hey, I think
beautiful
that's
thing.
it. I can start talking about
Now,
other things now,
now,
right?
now you can talk about yourself.
Any
No,
questions you have about construction, ask somebody else. Anyways,
no,
but if people do want to get in touch with Murphy Brothers Contracting, they can always call the office at 914-777-5777, or they can go on murphybrothers.com. We
perfect.
Before they go to the website, take a look at what we do first before they call us.
I was actually going to put you to a test and tell you to recite the Murphy Brothers phone number to see if you had it memorized. So you beat me to it.
Do you want to hear the Murphy Brother jingle?
Go for it.
Just kidding. There's no jingle. We should have a jingle.
You should.
Yes.
You got to work on that. Then we'll put you in a recording studio. So, Michael, I know, and listen, the Murphy Brothers Company, their legacy, your mission statement and the projects you guys work on, it's a great company, and it's nice to have companies like Murphy Brothers and Lapolis working in tandem with each other. It's when two companies like ours come together, only great things can happen. And I want to ask you, on the business development side, how important is that client relation aspect of the business when you are a 40-year company and looking to stay in business for the next 40, 50, 60 years? How important are those relationships, and what does the word relationship mean to you?
Well, Steve, as you know, with the world of social media, the world got bigger and smaller all at the same time. I'll give you an example. You're probably on House, right? Everybody's on House. It's that website where homeowners look for ideas about how to renovate their homes,
Yeah.
or possibly hire a contractor, even an electrician. I've seen them on House as well. So we get calls or emails all the time from people on House, they asking us, well, what kind of tile did you use in that picture? And what color paint is over here? And what is that fixture over there? Now, I look at it this way. It says, our outreach is like this. So we get these questions from people in San Diego and Nebraska and, Florida, asking us questions about projects they see us posting on House. But then I'm more concerned about the person that lives in Yonkers. Because although we don't work much in Yonkers, the person in Yonkers probably knows the person in Scarsdale that we work for, or the person in Greenwich that we work for. So it's gotten bigger and it's gotten small at the same time. So you have to be concerned with everybody in our business with a relationship. And professional companies like ours, the ones that check off all the boxes, and there are so many. I mean, that you compete against people, other electrical companies, and you say, if you see their name on a bid, or they're working for somebody, you say, well, they've hired somebody good because they're friendly competitors with you. And every once in a while, Murphy Brothers will meet with contractors that we compete against in the Greenwich and Westchester area, and we find that we are very, very similar in how we do our work and how concerned we are about the work that we do and the way the client perceives us. Not only the client, but the neighbors perceive us, how the architect perceives us. We are very concerned about how our subs look at us. We're concerned about the suppliers because first of all, we always try to do the right thing, but who can afford to have somebody say something bad about them?
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, I think.
But I will tell you this. If anybody came up to me and said anything disparagingly about your company, I would jump on them like in a hot minute and say, wait a minute, I know them. Because you know how people are. It's crazy.
People, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's unfortunate to say, but people have something negative to say before they have something positive to say.
True.
But
So our new thing, Steve, is to say that are because of how people are perceived on social media, that if we ever hear anything other than total positive about somebody, we say, okay, we got another story for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we know how you guys work. We know how you operate.
Yeah, and we know this, the same for Murphy Brothers. I think it comes down to a lot of people may speak out of turn or, on a fiction-based statement. A lot of stuff that, if it is negative, it's because it could come from a place of jealousy. You never know until you actually deal with somebody and get an experience that you can actually judge somebody on. So, I take things that people say with a grain of salt. I think a big problem in today's world, especially with social media and the instant flow of, information, you have to be very, vigilant of what you're allowing your mind to process and what you kind of have to look at and say, no, I think that's complete BS. That's not true. And we know, like you said, we know who these people are and the morals and laurels that they stand on. It's extremely important.
Right, very important to us. I mean, let's continue the narrative. We'll say if you've hired a Lapolis Electric to do the work on your house or your business or whatever, you've got the right people. So
100%.
if you've got
Thank you.
Murphy Brothers, you've got the right people.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. Like you said, it's family owned businesses. These aren't corporations or, conglomerate, institutions that, have layers of managers and, different, positions to have frontline workers just picking up the phone and deflecting, negative feedback. You're dealing with two companies being Lapolis Electric and Murphy Brothers that take into major account the pride and the reputation behind the finished product and the process that goes into completing a project. I think there's something to really be said, and I spoke about this a lot with Paul and Michelle when we did our episode, that product has, for Paul and Michelle, it has their last name on it. For me, I stand behind that last name. I stand behind that finished product, and really at the end of the day, it's extremely important to us and to, the team members at Lapolis Electric that what we put out in the world, people know if it's put out there by us, it's the right job, and 100% effort went into executing that project.
Well, you mentioned Paul and Michelle. I think you're witnessing the transition between the founder of the company to the second generation coming up now and taking over the company.
Yeah.
And I know the same thing's occurring in Murphy Brothers too. We have C.J. Murphy and Caitlin Murphy, son and a daughter of son of the owner and a daughter of the other owner are planning on taking or are working to take over the company, which I think is terrific. And they've seen it grow. They've been instilled growing up with the values that go into having a quality company, how to run a professional company. And the same thing with Lapolis. I've met Paul and Michelle a number of occasions, and they do a great job in representing what Lapolis stands for.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Paul and Michelle, they eat, sleep, and breathe, the Lapolis Electric brand name. They saw their father build this company with his bare hands, as children, and now they're working in the business. And, when you have that perspective on a company, you have a different drive when you wake up in the morning, to get up and give 110% effort every day. And even for me, my father has been with Carmine Lapolis now for over 20 years. I've known Carmine since I was, 3, 4 years old. So, my last name may not be Lapolis, but at the end of the day, it's family business, and Rob Doria, Carmine's other partner, Rob has his son working with the company as well. So you have Paul, Michelle, myself, Rob Jr., and all the other guys that have been kind of on this ride with Carmine Lapolis for so many years. Ryan Knapp, Anthony Galetta, and a lot of the team members that have longevity that are looking to, like Murphy Brothers, looking to bring this company to the next 40 years, to the 80-year mark, the 85, 100-year mark. And, it's truly a testament to the morals and beliefs that kind of lay that foundation for these companies.
Yeah, and the business is changing. It's changing radically.
Yeah.
And it's in several different ways. It's changing, like, just how we do just the business end of it is one thing, but the electrical part of it is just amazing how that's changing, or the construction part and how that's changing.
Yeah.
I think that, I made a joke about how it's at one time there for about 10 years, all we were talking about is, like Whirlpool tubs and, those, what do you call those faucets that fill the pasta fillers,
Yeah.
right? But now it's like everything's about energy efficiency. It's not just LED. It's like the world's going in electrification, right? In fact, this is if a kid asked me today, he says, "Well, I'd like to. What kind of business, Mr. Murphy, do you think I should go into?" I said, "Well, I tell you, I wouldn't become a gas station owner."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't know if they're going to be around in 10 years, but I definitely would go and I'd start an electrician business
Yeah.
because electrical contractors, boy, they're definitely got the open door for business going forward in the future. To that being said, as I want to mention to you, so that Murphy Brothers belongs to the Business Council of Westchester. We've been
Okay.
members for going on 13 years, and we're just great, happy to be involved with them in so many different ways. But with the Business Council of Westchester, also with Dan Singer, you probably know Dan Singer from Robeson
Yeah.
Energy. Great guy, should
Yeah.
have him on your show.
Yeah, he would be great to have on.
He'd be great.
He's a staple in Westchester County.
Stable. Actually, Dan is also a generational owner of the business there.
Oh,
He's got a
nice.
great story about how they started out in coal, went into gas, and now they're going into clean energy. So
Wow.
with Dan Singer and my good friend Ron Kamen is the president of Earthkind Energy, and he's Murphy Brothers' outside energy consultant for clean
Oh,
energy
wow.
projects, both
Very
for
cool.
commercial and residential. So we went to the Business Council of Westchester, John Ravitz, and said, we'd like to move the needle on the clean energy question in Westchester County, because we know that's the way it's going to go. It's moving towards clean energy.
Everything, yeah.
So with that, they started a group within the Business Council of Westchester called the Business Council of Westchester Clean Energy Action Coalition.
Wow.
We have another meeting coming up in September. I'd like to invite you to be there because you
I
guys are a
appreciate
big
that.
part of that. If not yourself, maybe Paul should,
Yeah, I'll
should be
definitely
involved in that.
speak with Paul about that.
Sure. And the organization, it's like we know that clean energy is the big movement in Westchester County. We've got the closing of Indian Point, other things that are happening. We know that everything's electrified, going electrified. So new buildings are all electrified. So it'd be great. We see that we want to be in the forefront of what that message looks like, what it sounds like, what it looks like as this happens in Westchester County.
Let me ask, being on like the design side and the general construction management side of the industry, what are you seeing in terms of like doing these luxury homes or luxury clubs, the more large scale residential towers, whatever it may be? What does that design process look like now that everything is looking to be electrified? Because I know, like in New York City, all these buildings, especially with all the local laws and different, processes in place now for this energy efficiency initiative, like we just discussed, they're getting rid of gas. They're getting rid of, gas stoves and, different convenience applications in Manhattan. Talk a little bit about what that landscape looks like in Westchester County.
Well, Steve, good question. I think it's more like where it is right now and where it's going.
Gotcha.
So where it is right now is that I don't think that the design concepts have caught, well, on the commercial side, of course, there's going to be an MEP that's going to have, soup to nuts, everything laid out there. They're thinking it through from the beginning of the project to the end of it. A lot of times on the residential side, even 10,000 square foot houses, and we just finished a 10,000 square foot house in the middle of one. Now, you find that what happens is it's too much by the seat of the pants, like it is in the past, right?
Yeah.
They do the modicum of design work, and then they hand it to the electrical contractor and said, "You finish the rest of this. This is what we want to do." Or they say they come in too late in the project and say, maybe we should have done this, or how about that? Have you thought about this? Not like if you're involved in a commercial project, you're going to have a lighting designer involved in that,
Yeah.
so that they're looking at it as the way they're asking all the right questions. The questions need to be asked. So I think that where it's going in the future is that you guys are going to be brought in early on in the design process because so much of the house is based in electrification.
Yeah.
We are blessed, and I do say blessed, to live in an area where people can actually get what they want. They can afford it here.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm from upstate New York, Rochester, and up there, the amount of people people that make a whole lot of money up there is a lot less than down over here. So
Yeah.
people are willing to pay for what they want. So I think that it behooves us in the business is to advocate for the electrical contractors to be involved upfront in the conversation.
Yeah.
So
To make sure the concepts actually are going to work in a practical sense.
absolutely.
Because I think that's
Because at the same time, it's not just having, I've got the lighting, the sound system, whatever, all that. You want to make sure you're doing it in an energy efficient manner as well.
Yeah, because if you want to, energy efficiency is great, but you also don't want to over electrify because now you're going to run into another set of problems like on the utility side. People are going to, there's always a cost to everything. So really what it comes down to, you make a fully energy efficient home, you got your smart car, you got, a whole bunch of different, you know, entertainment centers in your house, especially when you're talking about these 10,000 square foot house, who has a sauna, who has a pool, who has, a home gym, so now your lifestyle has to also be energy efficient. So now for your pool, you have all different types of, sensors and motors and this and that to control the heat exchange, whatever it may be that used to be controlled by gas. So really, from an efficiency and feasibility standpoint, it's important that not only the MEP engineers are looking at these things, but they get, like you're saying, the input of an electrical contractor to make sure that all of this is going to work, A, on the front end from a technical and engineering standpoint, but on the back end, because we're also, we're dealing with a lot of other areas of the business where we analyze utility usage bills and set up our own way to monitor, the amount of electricity used, whether it's in a massive tower in the city or one of these larger homes in Westchester. It's called a power quality analysis or a load analysis, and we can actually determine how much electricity your home or your building or your hospital data center, whatever you're operating or living in, is using compared to what the utility is charging you, and then we'll compare your utility bill to that real time load analysis and figure out where people need to actually save money, or save energy on their usage side to make their operation or their lifestyle more feasible. And I think that's a big thing that people aren't paying attention to is, yeah, gas costs money, but when you start electrifying everything, your utility bill is going to be a pretty penny at the end of the month.
Yeah, imagine. We built, I was telling you about the self-storage facility we built on our property. It's 40,000 square feet.
Yeah.
We were running at 40,000 square foot building, running at $2,000 a month for our energy costs. And
Wow.
it had an electric elevator. You know how much they draw on the power.
Yeah, a lot.
So it was like we built the building very energy efficient. Won a couple of awards for they were honored for the energy efficiency side of it. And we're going to build the next 43,000 square feet in the same manner here, but the cost of energy has gone up.
Yep.
Con Edison had their spike there, and so we're probably spending somewhere around $3,500 a month to heat and cool that building.
Yeah.
And it's a climate control building. So if you could take that down to, like, let's say a 5,000 square foot house and translate those electrical bills down to that size there, that's basically where people want to be in that kind of an energy efficient range.
Yeah.
It's interesting how where the homeowner should be demanding that they have a qualified electrician involved in the beginning of the project,
Yeah.
to know in the design part of the project, to know what's going on as far as, how their heating and cooling is going to go, where they want any kind of smart systems in the house, the lighting, whatnot. So to make sure that at the end of the day, when they put the key finally in that lock and open up that door for the first time, move in there, they know they've moved into the house of their dreams.
Yeah.
And not sitting there going, oh, I know you do this, and how come we didn't do that? Right? I should have done this. Answer all those questions up front. And that's going to happen. This is where it's all coming. I believe that the world is coming. It's going to become more collaborative. You guys see it all the time.
Yeah.
You work on a commercial project. Let's say you're working on a big project at White Plains Hospital. They're very buttoned up. There's all kinds of plans for this and plans for that, meetings for this, discussions about that. And then you go to do a 10,000 square foot house. And all of a sudden you realize, no one knows what they're doing. There's no plan. There's a plan, but it's too much verify in field or design in field kind of things, right? Instead of like having a line by line item of what should be going on in there. But that's going to change. There's going to be more collaborative. It's going to be easier to collaborate on things like this.
Yeah, I think, collaboration, the last episode I did, we were talking about how important, internally the collaborative process is when working on a project, but it's even more important when you're collaborating across other businesses and trades, because if the job isn't moving in harmony, then there's going to be either an upset client at the end of the project, or there's going to be friction amongst the trades during the job from a design process all the way down to closeout, because you have to make sure, the tradesmen have to make sure that if I do A, it's not going to affect B and C, and I agree. I think, these MEP meetings shouldn't be, like Congress meetings where the doors are closed and we make the decisions and here's your plans. Good luck. Go build it. Because what happens is halfway through that job, when the guys in the field or whether it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, when we actually go out there and deploy the electricians or plumbers or HVAC techs and they go to build it to the spec that was handed to them without their input, and we're like, well, this doesn't work. This on a practical level in the actual field, like this is not going to work. It's like
That happens. I mean,
it happens a lot.
Yes, it does, and it's great if you have. Again, we're always working. That's why we like working with companies like Lapolis because there's collaboration.
100%.
There's communication. Something happens, we talk about it. We figure it out. We figure it out together.
Yes.
Because I think plans are essentially they're a good idea, and no matter how detailed they might be. But if actually when you get in the field and you start doing the work, then you find out that's where the rubber meets the road. So things are changing. I mean, we're in this. We see that there's going to be more and more the opportunities for collaborating together on projects from the beginning is going to be there. I've mentioned to you earlier. I said that we're members of the Building and Realty Institute, and there's a concern, or was a concern, pre-pandemic and just after the pandemic about the lack of young people going into the construction fields. And there is a concern about that, but there's something about the construction field that we are being affected by AI, and AI is going to change. It's going to make it more efficient to build outside the actual job site and bring it in already assembled. You just assemble it there on the job site. These panelized
prefabricated.
And I think you guys have been involved in projects like that too.
Yeah, we have.
I see more and more that's where it's going to go, and it's going to be because I don't want a cookie cutter. Well, you don't have to have a cookie cutter because with the computer can change it and make it any way you want. Want to make it look like Frank Lloyd Wright designed your house? Bing, there it is.
Yeah.
So.
It is AI. That's a whole rabbit hole to jump down.
Crazy world.
It is really a crazy world, and I'm still educating myself on AI because whether we like it or not, it's going to play a major part in business.
Major. I'd be concerned if I was an architect or an interior designer.
Yeah.
Because that's more on the art side of it. And the one thing that AI can do, if they can copy a Matisse, if they can copy a Beatles song. They can copy a
design
a design of some famous architect designer or designer. They'll be able to do that. So I'd be concerned about. Then again, I guess you still have to deal with the clients, and a lot of times you have to have a human being that deals with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as far as the work goes, the design work, right down to meeting code, right down to having the right type of lighting, the right type of heating and air conditioning equipment, the right kind of appliances. It'll all be right there at the touch of a finger. So that'll change our business a lot. I think that 10 years from now, I'd have to say Lapolis Electric will be here and Murphy Brothers Contracting will be here. A lot of other people are going to find other things to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of the area of expertise that our two companies provide to our community, we'll definitely be here no matter what happens with business, technology advancements and whatnot, and that's what kind of makes us who we are. As we're winding down here on the episode, Michael, I want to ask you a question. What is the best tip you can give to a homeowner or somebody that's running a building to position themselves towards a more energy efficient home or building?
If a homeowner's listening to this and they're wondering if their house is energy efficient, I would call up or find someone. Do you guys do that? Do you do audits, energy audits?
We do. We do.
I would call Lapolis and get an energy audit of your building. I would in a hot minute. First of all, what's the cost of that for a homeowner?
I mean, it all depends on square footage, but for a home,
he set me up here. He knew I was going to. Yes, I would call Lapolis Electric and I'd say, you want to get an energy audit done of your house. I mean, it tells you line by line what you need to have done. Now, you don't have to do it, but it tells you what to do.
Yeah, and I promise for anybody that's listening, I didn't set him up for that. He could have went anywhere he wanted with that question. But it is true, if the energy audit is done, we'll make everybody aware of what needs to be done to bring your, energy efficiency rating, quote unquote, to make it a technical term, to an A or A plus rating, and make sure that you are energy efficient and moving, towards a, more sustainable lifestyle, so to speak.
I don't know if you think about it on the housing stock in Westchester County alone, right?
Yeah.
Is there's so much of it that was built. My house is 100 years old this year.
Yeah.
Built in 1924, great shape. The house next door was built in 1924. Someone was telling me the other day, said their house is going 100 years this year. I said that was a great year in the
build
20s there
houses.
to build. 30s was a great time to build. They built not a lot, but they were building houses. 40s, yes. 50s, 60s. We've got old stock here.
Yeah, a lot.
So it gets renovated all the time.
Yep.
It gets a new homeowner. The new homeowner wants to do new kitchen addition out the back there. So we have a lot of work going on there, but it is an aging infrastructure. So
Yeah, I agree with
and these
that.
houses are energy inefficient, so
Yeah.
they need to be brought up to speed.
A lot of New York State in general is a lot of Civil War, post Civil War built houses and homes. So there's going to be a lot of upgrades and demolition to build new. So if you're going to do it right. Why not? And Michael, listen, I really want to thank you for coming out here today.
Can I throw the phone number out here again?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so Murphy Brothers Contracting's at 914-777-5777, or go to the website. It's murphybrothers.com. I got to say, Steve, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
Every time I drive onto a job site and I see the Lapolis truck on there, I said, I know the job's being run well.
I appreciate that.
So it's always a pleasure to see you
I know
guys.
Carmine Lapolis would appreciate that, that positive kudos as well.
Where's my shirt?
Thank you very much. What's that?
My Lapolis shirt.
We have to get you one. We have to get you some Lapolis swag.
It's wired by Lapolis.
Wired, exactly. So listen, Michael, thank you again for being on another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, and thank you to all the listeners for tuning into another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino. Thank you.